Well, so far in the save, it's fair to say that Augsburg have probably been the closest thing we've had here at Lokomotive Leipzig to a bogey team, but these days, now that we're in the two Bundesliga, that might be St. Pauli. One game off back of yesterday's episode, we suffered a 4-1 defeat. Let's try and get back on track before the winter break. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 45 of the Leipzig Loko with Lokomotive Leipzig here on Sean Does FM. I hope you are doing well, and coming up today we play 2 of our last 4 games before we do hit the halfway point of the season. Going into the winter break, we take on Augsburg in a big game. Before we do enter that break, 4th versus 3rd, the team that wins this should make their way into a promotion playoff spot. Going into that halfway point of the season, off the back of that, we take on Sandhausen, who are only mid-table, but last season were up in the Bundesliga. So if you're looking forward to those 2 games coming up in today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated, but just played the 1 game off the back of those 2 wins in yesterday's episode. One of those was in the second round of the DFB Pokal. If you missed that episode, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. We did beat Bochum, and off the back of that, a 1-0 win over the league topping Arminia Bielefeld at that stage. So going to our first game of this month away at St. Pauli was full of confidence off the back of 4 straight wins, and we suffered a 4-1 hammering in this one. It certainly wasn't as bad a performance as that scoreline would suggest, but still, it was a bit of a dodgy game in terms of the match engine with some of these goals that we did concede. Did feel like just before halftime, Cliché's goal might have got us back into the game, but unfortunately, things just went from bad to worse in the second half. XG-wise, quite an even game, but somehow we did suffer a 4-1 defeat, even with 62% of the balls. One of those weird games like we had going into a couple of episodes ago where we did suffer a 3-0 defeat against Darmstadt. It does feel like still we can cop results like that away from home in particular, but thankfully it does mean still in 4th on the 2 Bundesliga table. It was actually a really good chance for us on that match day to try and make some ground up on some of our fellow teams. Augsburg did suffer a defeat against Sandhausen, so thankfully haven't lost any ground on those guys, but if we had picked up some points from that game, we probably would have found ourselves inside of that top 3, but now we are in 4th spot, and also thankfully going into this match against Augsburg, Hanover have dropped points in their outing earlier on this match day, somehow managing to lose at home against Augsburg. So thankfully, despite that rogue result there against St. Pauli, who off the back of that suffered a 1-0 defeat to Karlsruhe, so those guys very random at the moment, we do still find ourselves in 4th on the table. And if we can win this first game of today's episode in particular, we will go up into a promotion playoff spot, and hopefully from there can find a way to stay there going in to that winter break. And first up today, we host an Augsburg team just above us on the league table, as you saw before they come to this one off the back of a loss at home to Sandhausen. Both of these games for us in today's episode are going to be in front of our home fans, which is very nice. These guys were predicted to be right up there fighting for automatic promotion this season, so they're around about where they were expected to be, albeit their recent form against decent teams not actually that great. Their most recent losses have come against Sandhausen and Arminia Bielefeld, and apart from that, they've picked up some narrow wins in the Cup and over St. Pauli, so this is going to be an interesting game, but hopefully with home advantage, we can pick up all 3 points, and also with the fact we have no more injuries here at Lokomotive Leipzig for the first time in a little while, we should be able to put out close enough to our full strength 11 over the course of today's episode. And off the back of that first game in today's episode, we'll come back and take on that Sandhausen team, who will come into that one off the back of that win over Augsburg, as well as some draws against Eintracht Braunschweig and Glöfer Fürth. These guys only predicted to finish mid-table despite the fact they were coming down from the Bundesliga. It could be a tricky game, but again, hopefully at home we can pick up some more points, and hopefully if we can beat Augsburg in that first game of today's episode, solidify our position in one of those promotion spots. Even if it is just that one, we have to play a playoff against the 3rd worst team from the Bundesliga this season, but still that would be some good progress off the back with a 5th place finish last season. Certainly feels like we're playing better football this time around, scoring a lot more goals, even if we're a bit more leaky defensively. it does feel like we're playing better football than last season, even though based on table position, not actually performing that much better. But hopefully we can sneak our way into that top 3 going into the winter break, and it will be a sign of improvement. And we'll come back shortly and run through the team sheets for this first game, a big one, 4th versus 3rd, as we host Augsburg. And here are the team sheets for the first game of today's episode. As I mentioned before, no injury concerns, so it does mean that for the first time in a little while, we can go full strength into this one. Augsburg are going with a 4-3-3. Hopefully at home, we can pick up a win and jump above them into one of those promotion spots. And just shy of the 10-minute mark, first highlight in this game is a free kick here to Augsburg. Krapickas might have got a touch on that. Thankfully, Lucas Search can clear that one, but Augsburg get on the front foot nice and early, albeit good work there from Clige to hopefully set up something for us here on the counter-attack, but unfortunately, that's not the case already. Yellow cards to Cueto and Lucas Search, so that might be something we have to deal with throughout the rest of this game, but early stages, it is still 0-0. And coming up to the 20-minute mark, we get our next highlight in this game. Now we are down the other end for a throw-in of our own, so hopefully this time we can do something really for the first time in this game. Unfortunately, though, a bit of a loose pass there, and Augsburg in the all-red will get a chance to try and do something here on the counter-attack. Good touch there from one of the midfielders, and now Sherlinov can find some space down that far side, starts to cut inside, but loose touch, and Bullock there gets it back for us. Nice ball over the top here for Thibaut. Clige will chip the goalkeeper, but unfortunately Reece Oxford is able to recover, and we can't quite find Cueto inside the box on the follow-up, and it does remain 0-0, but now a decent chance for both teams, albeit shortly off the back of that highlight. Yet again, there is another one, this time under a bit of pressure, but you eventually find Huxer there down that right-hand side, takes his time and plays that one back out to Krasnicki. Clige there, far post, the goalkeeper makes a save, and Oxford is there yet again to clear the danger. So a few good chances for us there, but about halfway through the first half, still locked up at 0-0. And just about to make our way into the last 5 minutes of this first half. Since that opening highlight, we've certainly got on top of Augsburg in this game, but unfortunately still locked up at 0-0. Hopefully we can find a way here to grab a goal to put us in front just before the half. Bit of an iffy pass there, but thankfully Krasnicki is able to claim it before an Augsburg player, and now we take our time here to try and play out from the back. But in this game, I believe the stats are 9 shots to 2, albeit both teams with only 1 on target. Unfortunately, loose touch there down that far side, but thankfully Augsburg just give that ball straight to Lucas Search, and we get inside their half pretty shortly. Clige inside the box, good chance there, but Timo Horn in goal for Augsburg comes up with a good save. Here to say we've had the better chances so far in this first half, especially off the back of that opening highlight. All the ones since then have been in our favour, but unfortunately still 0-0, and we can't do anything from that corner, and it looks like we'll be still locked up going into half-time. And indeed that is the case. Half-time in this one, 0-0 Augsburg. Actually had a few more shots than I thought in that first half, but overall we have definitely had the better of that game. Took us a little while to kick into gear, as you can tell by the XG match story, but overall we're playing pretty well. Hopefully we can break through at some stage during the second half, and to help with that, we are going to make a few substitutions, albeit not really ones we'd like to make. Based on yellow cards, Lucas Locke can come on for Lucas Search, and also Song Bin Kim can come on for Daniel Cueto. We'll make those changes just to make sure we don't get reduced to 10 men, but fairly happy with that first half. Hopefully we find our goal scoring touch in the second. We'll get things back underway, still locked up at 0-0. And pretty shortly into the second half, first highlight here does see Augsburg on the ball, and they do try and make their way here into our half, but good tackle there from Kim, newly on the field, but fortunately that Clige did win that ball back, and now a great chance from here. We have numbers on the overlap. Tilgan will pick him out, he buries it, but I do fear he is offside. The assistant has put his flag up. We eventually put the ball in the back of the net, but I do think this one is not going to count. Tilgan there, just a little bit slow to refine Clige there with that 1-2. It was a good bit of work on the counter-attack off that tackle from Song Bin Kim, but Tilgan here just one stride too far in front. There is Clige, so that goal won't count, and still 0-0. About 5 minutes into the second half, and in fact right off the back of that, we are now down the other end here for a throw-in to Augsburg. Meyer will find Kudel here in space down that left-hand side, back there to Starjay. He will try and curve that one top right corner, not far away, but thankfully just goes over the bar. Still 0-0. And shortly off the back of those opening couple of highlights here in the second half, it has been a busy opening period, less than 10 minutes in. We have our third highlight of the half, this time a throw in our favour so far, just keeping the ball on that far side, but eventually find some space here in the middle of the park through our defenders. Now Huxa plays that one over the top for Krasnicki, tries to square it yet again. Reese Oxford does get in the way, and a poor header down does mean Augsburg did have a chance there to try and get forward, but thankfully we just sandwiched the player there and win that ball back. Now with Tilgen, we'll get the ball again down that far side back there for Kachala. We eventually try and put that into the mixer, but again, Treyu is able to deal with that danger, albeit poor header there from the Augsburg forward. And Dorenzo now on the ball down that far side. Kim finds some space on the ball, actually did really well to control that, but unfortunately his shot goes just wide, and somehow still 0-0 coming up to the hour mark. And it continues to be thick and fast highlights in the second half. Augsburg there were on possession, but unfortunately they do just give it away to us, and then we give it straight back. So Augsburg back on the attack, but that's a great slide tackle there from Bullock. And now Cliche, someone inside him, it is Kim. What can he do? Takes a touch and just gets some help from the post. Our South Korean will score his second goal of the season, and eventually we break through this Augsburg team legally and do grab a 1-0 lead with a half hour left. Great tackle there from Bullock, nice ball from Kachala, and Cliche nice and composed, and Kim off the bench only really because of a yellow card to Daniel Cueto, but he slots that one away with a bit of help from the woodwork and makes it 1-0 with a half hour left. And in fact, right off the back of that opening goal and adjusting some opposition instructions, there is a highlight here from the restart in favour, potentially, of Augsburg. Hopefully, we don't let them straight in off the back of eventually taking a lead, which does feel pretty well deserved based on what we've seen so far in this game. We put some pressure on them though down that near side. Krasnicki wins that ball back for us, pumps that deep for some reason. Huxa doesn't go for it, might have just been offside. So Augsburg here will get a chance to try and play out from the back and grab a pretty instant equaliser. They try and play that one over the top, and it is a good chance here. They find Shuranov in space here down this near side, but thankfully his shot does fall into the hands of Krapakas, and it stays 1-0 to Lokomotive Leipzig. And just making our way into the last 20 minutes of this game, just checking player fitness, and Racine Bullock playing well, but is down to a red hat. Leon Heinke will come on for him, still 1-0 ahead. And we're just into the last 15 minutes of this game, not too long off the back of those previous substitutions, but do feel like now is a good time to bring on the rest of our subs to hopefully give them a rating. Off of the bench, Michael Wusu comes on for Krasnicki, also played well, but is down to a red hat. And of the rest, we'll take off Huxa, Punzel and Esto. Those two should still have a good combination from the last few seasons down that right-hand side. Those are our last couple of subs with 15 minutes left. We are still 1-0 ahead. And just about into the last 10 minutes of this game and think about starting to time waste a little bit, albeit it looks like we might already be doing it here as Dorenzo's taking his time over a throw-in on that far side. Eventually puts it in there and Kim gives it straight back to him. Now Heinke, Kachala, now a Tilgen. Edge of the box, nice ball there for Micah Wusu. Beats Timo Horn at his near post. And Owusu will score his first goal of the season, and surely that will wrap up all 3 points. Hopefully means now don't need to worry about time wasting quite so much. We can hold on to a 2-goal lead for these last 10 minutes, but quite a few substitutes there are involved in this goal. It's a bit of a link up from last season. A Tilgen there for Mike Owusu. Bit of luck just squeezing that one in between the post and Timo Horn, but we eventually make it 2-0 Lokomotive Leipzig. And just making our way inside the last 5 minutes of this game, late free kick here to Augsburg, and it's another decent chance, but thankfully that one does just go wide, and shortly off the back of that, there is another highlight, but does look like there should be not enough time here so we can hold on and pick up all 3 points, especially if we can win the ball like that and maybe even make it 3-0 Cliche. Long range shot, but unfortunately that one never really threatens the target. It's been a pretty good display as well off the back of a bit of an iffy opening. Since that opening free kick inside the first couple of minutes, most of the highlights have been in our favour, and we scored 2 goals in the second half. Kim and Mawosu both off of the bench and pick up, in the end, what looks like a fairly comfortable 2-0 win, and it does mean we are going to move inside that top 3, even if it is just a promotion playoff spot. Hopefully, with our games remaining going into that winter break, we can hold on to it and make sure that going into that second part of the season, we are right in the hunt for promotion up to the Bundesliga. But that is now our 3rd win in a row over Augsburg. We are yet to lose against them since we have been promoted up to the 2 Bundesliga. We just seem to be able to find a way to get the better of Timo Horn and his lot there at Augsburg. A good 2-0 win. As I said, took a little while to get the ball in the back of net, but once we did feel like that was a reasonably comfortable win, which will see us move inside that top 3 going into that second game of today's episode. Hopefully, we can pick up another good result and stay there, as we'll come back and host Sandhausen, who of course last year were playing up in the Bundesliga. And we are back with the team sheets for the second game of today's episode. Unfortunately, a few changes have been enforced. Lucas Search is out suspended, so Lucas Loko will come on for him. And also, Panzo Ernesto comes in for Florian Haxar, who's picked up an injury since that first game. So a few changes there at the back, but hopefully we can still perform well here against the team a lot further down the table than Augsburg and hold on to a spot inside that top 3. And pretty much an identical time to our first highlight in the first game of today's episode, we do get another, and yet again it is threatening here to be in favour of the opposition Sandhausen. These guys in the all-white thankfully try and play a ball over the top there, and Lucas Loko is there to get that for us. Nice ball over the top though from us for a Tilgen. Good chance, but their goalkeeper comes up with a good save to keep it at 0-0, but hopefully it means this time around we might get off to a quicker start than in that first game. Really, the only downside to our performance in that one, but we can't do anything from the subsequent corner. Still 0-0 coming up to the 15-minute mark. And nearly inside the last 5 minutes of this first half, we have the next highlight of this game. Now down the other end here for a Sandhausen corner. They put this one into the mixer, and Lam Keys is able to get his head on the end of that one. For some reason, Tilgen was in the box there trying to deal with that danger, even though he is one of the shorter players at the club. Not too sure why he's there defending at corners. Thought he'd be a player who would be trying to get us on the counter-attack, but unfortunately a few of our players there do miss that header. Krasnicki does get beaten, and in what has been a pretty even game so far, we are going to go into the sheds 1-0 behind, so this would not be an ideal result off the back of that good big win over Augsburg in that previous game, which did see us go inside that top 3. Hopefully we don't blow that going into the winter break. Racine Bullock has picked up a late yellow card as well in that first half, so we are going to make a substitution here and bring on Leon Heinke for him at halftime. A few other players out there are struggling, but I think we'll just give the boys here a bit of a rev up at halftime, and hopefully the likes of Osman Tilgen do perform a bit better in the second half, but not an ideal follow-up from that first result in today's episode. We'll get the second half underway, 1-0 behind. And we get a very early highlight in the second half. It is Krapakas there rolling that one out to Dorenzo, and immediately he gets us near enough to inside of the opposition half, or he plays that one back to Gal. Hopefully going to get a response here off the back of our halftime team talk. Really good work there from Daniel Cueto. Picks out Leon Heinke, fresh off the bench. He usually scores with his head, that one with his feet, and thankfully buries that one top right corner off the back yet again of some really good work from our attacking midfielder this time. Daniel Cueto, not too sure how he's kept that ball there, but fortunate, but thankfully does find Leon Heinke, of all people, just keeps that one under the crossbar, and early in the second half, we level things up and make it 1-1. And coming up to the hour mark, thankfully did grab that equaliser nice and early in this half, but still a few players out there on poor ratings, both of them on our left-hand side. So because of that, we're going to bring on Yuri Bas at left back as well as Anton Bulland at left wing, and hopefully can go on and grab a winner in this game with a half hour left. Still 1-1. And very short off the back of those most recent substitutions, now it's a free kick here, which Thibaut Clige will try and put in that top right corner. Not a bad effort, but unfortunately that one goes just over the post. Still 1-1. And just about into the last 15 minutes of this game, time to check on some player fitness. And with our last 2 substitutions, we do have 2 players who are down to red hearts. It will be Mateo Kacella and Albin Krasnicki, who will be coming off for those 2. We'll bring on Molati and Owusu. Hopefully, like the previous game, he can score a goal this time, which could give us all 3 points. But with 15 minutes left, still locked up at 1-1. And we've just into the last 5 minutes of this game. Not many highlights in this half off the back of that early one, which was a goal in our favour. We'll go attacking for the last minute or so of extra time. In the end, we have looked the slightly better team based on stats, which is good off the back of a pretty average first half. But unfortunately this time, that goal we conceded just before half-time from a set piece, it does prove costly. Leon Heinke thankfully grabbed one back for us early in that second half, but it is only a point there in that game at home against Sandhausen, which is a little bit disappointing, especially looking at that XG match story from the second half. We were well and truly the more threatening team in that half, but unfortunately can only pick up a point from that one. Hopefully we are still able to hold on to third spot in the league. And as you can see, we are gonna Augsburg also drawing on that match day with Karlsruhe, and the teams in behind them and Hanover and Dynamo Dresden can't quite catch us up. So thankfully, for the moment, we will stay in third spot on the ladder. Hopefully, we can stay there going into the winter break in the games that I'm going to play off camera going into next week. But it's only an okay result in the second game of today's episode, a 1-1 draw at home against Sandhausen. So a decent episode today in terms of results. Really good win in that first one, 2-0 over Augsburg. Unfortunately, couldn't quite follow that the way that we wanted with a 1-1 draw against Sandhausen. But still, here is what the table does look like going into the last two games in December before we do hit that winter break, which we'll come back from at the start of next week. Still in third on the table, albeit these days quite a close run thing, only 1 point clear of Hanover and 1 point further back to Augsburg. So still in a bit of a fight. Hopefully we can pick up some more points in our next two games before we do hit that winter break, and hopefully we'll still be there when we do come back at the start of it next week. But I think that will do it for today's episode. Pretty good results, especially that first one, as I said, against Augsburg. If you did enjoy today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. As I said, I'm going to play these last two games before the winter break off camera against Karlsruhe away from home. That one could be a little bit tricky, and then Werder Bremen at home. To be fair, those guys have actually risen up the table quite a bit since I last checked on their league positions, to potentially tricky games before that winter break, but we'll come back and get stuck in to the third round of the DFB Pokal. It's probably a tough ask for us, but it is at home, but against Bundesliga opposition in Schalke. We'll see if we can make our way past that round and past some Bundesliga opposition for the first time in the save. And off the back of that, our first game back in the league from the winter break could be quite a big one. We take on Hanover at home. Of course, first game of the season, we suffered a 1-0 defeat away. Didn't actually play that bad in that game though. Hopefully with home field advantage, we can win that one. And if we can stay in that third position, that could actually be a really big game to try and shore up our chances of getting a chance to go up to the Bundesliga come the end of this season. So we'll come back start of January for those first games back from the winter break at the start of next week. Also, if anything happens in the January transfer window, we'll update you guys on that. But at the moment, fairly happy with our squad here at Lokomotive Leipzig, and also not a lot of extra room in the wage budget at the moment. So can't imagine we'll do too much more in terms of signings for this season. Maybe try and find some players we can sign on a free going into the next one. It will be interesting to see if that will still be in the two Bundesliga, or if we can try and find a way to get up to the big time, the Bundesliga itself, and maybe start to get some matchups happening against the team we are trying to overthrow here in the save in RB Leipzig. But we'll come back at the start of next week for that third round of the Cup, and also Hanover in the two Bundesliga. So until then, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.
Thought I could do this, laugh through the sadness. Don't know how I ended up so low.